Hello and welcome to another Ostrich video, and as you see we are not in the sim today, we are on a map because I want to talk about flight planning today and the classical way using an analog flight computer like this one and a piece of paper and a pen. And you can find this table for your flight planning on the Ostrich website, and flight computers like this you can find on eBay, Amazon, or if you don't need a physical one, there are also some apps that are doing exactly the same and are completely free. I put some links in the video description for you. And it's basically the way you would plan a flight for a GA flight, like probably lots of you are planning to do. And let's assume for today we are coming from the north to the Munich VOR, and then we take the 150-degree radial down south, so to the point about here where we will intercept the river Inn, and then we can follow the Inn back into Innsbruck. And Innsbruck, by the way, just means a bridge over the river Inn in medieval German. And today I want to calculate all the necessary data for this one leg from Munich VOR to our intercept point with the river Inn. And so we start, let's get some data in our sheet. And the first thing is we will fly at 4,000 feet. Our outside air temperature, let's say it's 5 degrees, plus 5 degrees. See, our wind is coming from the northeast, let's say 50 degrees at 10 knots. Our true course, as I said, will be 150 degrees to stay on this radial. And then our indicated airspeed is 130 knots. And the rest we have to calculate. And for this, we're using the flight computer, what gives us all these calculation options and a lot more. And the first important thing to know is how this thing works. And we see here the silver rounded scale and the blue rounded scale, and we see the numbers up here. And it's important to know this is the value, but we have to make sense of the magnitude by ourselves. So what this means is, when we see here a 12, that can really mean 12. It can also mean 1.2 or 120. Whatever is the right value, we have to make sense of it. But actually, it's always a magnitude of 10 difference, and so it's pretty easy to work this out. And also, what's very handy on the flight computer, basically all the instructions are given on the computer itself. And the first thing we want to find out is our true airspeed. As you may remember from my airspeed indicator video, our indicated airspeed and the true airspeed aren't necessarily the same. And so we can calculate this using the window what says for true airspeed. Very obvious. And we have here the temperature and here our altitude. And the first thing we have to do is set our temperature 5 degrees over our 4,000 feet altitude. And let's just simply do this. It's right about here. I think it's maybe a bit hard to see, but now the 5 degree marker sits directly over the 4,000 feet marker. And then we see on the silver round scale it says CAS, calibrated airspeed. And as you know, our calibrated airspeed and the indicated airspeed in normal cruise conditions, they are basically the same. And on the blue rounded scale, you see our true airspeed. And now we have to go to our 130 knots on the inner scale. What is? As I said, we have to make sense of the magnitude itself. So our 13 here stands for 130 knots. And we take the 30 on this scale and just read our true speed off a blue scale, and this shows you 13 is at 138 knots. So our true airspeed is 138 knots. Very nice. And with this information, we can now calculate our wind correction angle and our ground speed. And for these calculations, we have to go to the backside of our flight computer. Again, the instructions are given on the top. And let's start. So first you have to set our wind direction under the true index here. So that's 50 degree. So let's set this here. 50 degree. And then we have to mark above from it our wind speed, 10 knots. So usually you take a pencil and draw on it, and later you can just erase it. But for the sake of you are better able to see it, I put this little orange marker on it. And you see, like we have here 120 knots, 10 knots more. I put the marker at 130 knots to mark our wind speed. So if you are really lazy with calculations, you can center it at 100 and then just skip the first digit to get off your wind speed. Then we have to set our true course under the true index, so that's 150. That was too far. 150. And then we have to set the speed marker on our true airspeed marker. And you see these lines here, like this one is marked 120. So every value on this line has the airspeed of 120. So we set it to 137, what is right about there. And then we just can read off the value. So our ground speed is at the center, what in this case is 139 knots, just shy under 140. And our wind correction angle we can read off this scale here. So we have here 5 degrees, 10 degrees, 15 degrees off. And you see we are at, if we extrapolate it, at 4 degrees wind correction angle. And now we have to see should we subtract this angle or add this angle. And it's very easy. On the left side you subtract, on the right side you add. So our wind correction angle is minus 4 degrees. Then we have to keep in mind that our geographical North Pole and the magnetic North Pole aren't at the same place. So the geographical North Pole is at this place on every map that's marked North Pole, and the magnetic one that every compass needle is pointing on it is somewhere over northern Canada at the moment. And so we find that we have a magnetic variation on every place. And you see this, or maybe it's hard to see on the screen, but here we have this black dotted line on the map, what is marked at 2 degrees east. And far off this side we have another line, what is marked 3 degrees east. But we are much closer to the 2 degrees east variation. So we know our variation is 2 degrees, and now we have to see, did we have to subtract or do we have to add this angle again? And probably from the time of Cold War you have this sentence like west is best and east is least. So best you add, least you subtract. So we have 2 degrees east. So that means we subtract the variation. And then we have the deviation of our compass. And our compass has also instrument errors, and we have to compensate for this. So on next to your compass you find a little table that says, for example, if the compass is showing 180 degrees, you're actually flying 179 or something like this. Let's say in our case the deviation is 1 degree, and now we just have to calculate our compass heading. So 150 minus 4 minus 2 plus 1 is 155 degrees. So to stay on the 150-degree radial. With all our conditions, we have to fly a compass heading of 145 degree. Very nice. And the last thing we want to calculate is our flight time and the fuel burn. So for this, we need our distance, and that's very handy to have a physical flight computer, because here we have the scale, and you have to keep in mind which scale you need. So we are flying, we have our speeds in knots, so we need the nautical mile scale. If your speeds are in miles per hour, you would need the statute mile scale down here. But we have knots, so we set the 0 point in the center of the VOR, and then just read it off. So we met the river at 27 nautical miles, 27 nm. Very nice again. And then we can do this calculation. So we know our ground speed is 139 knots. So we set our index on our speed. So this description is about here. And so we set the speed on 139 knots, or on the scale it's 13.9. So 30.9 is about here. And then we go down again the blue scale and look for 27 nautical miles. What is 25, 26, 27. And you see it's below 11 and 12, or 1 hour 50 and 2 hours. So now we have to again make sense of the magnitude, and you see for 27 miles we never need up to 2 hours, so it's clearly 11.8 minutes, and as you round up, our flight time for this leg will be 12 minutes. And then we have to calculate our fuel consumption. Again, here are the instructions. You set the index on your gallons per hour, and then you just read it off. So let's say our fuel consumption is 9 gallons an hour. So we set it to 9, or 90 in this case, what represents our 9 gallons. And then we see our minutes on this scale, and then the fuel burned on the outer scale. So 12 minutes, so we go to 12, and you see it's over 18. Again, we have to make sense of the magnitude, and it's clearly only 1.8 gallons. And that's all the calculations you have to do for your flight planning. And you have to do this for each individual leg. And then you can also fill in your radio frequencies, your VR frequencies, and so on and so forth. That's it for this video. I hope you liked it. If you have questions, as always, just write it in the comments below, and I try to answer them as quickly and correctly as possible. And as always, everything that's left to say now is thanks for watching, and see you at the next time. Bye bye.